It's also a way of organizing complex adaptive societies. That's what really got me interested in it. I've been very interested in social tokens and NFTs for community as the new business model. And it creates a wholly different dynamic when you have combined network effects between your consumers or your network of users and yourself or your business.
And early Bitcoin users have found Bitcoin to be a very profitable financial investment, correct? However, aside from that, I find it amusing that the Bitcoin maxi narrative has been somewhat appropriated. The only two fields that are experiencing true exponential growth are these two: cryptocurrency and technology. The most crucial message that Real Vision CEO Raoul Pal conveyed was that if you don't get this, you risk missing out on the most revolutionary wealth transfer that the modern era has ever seen. He issues a warning that the legacy system, which is based on aging populations, debt, and slow development, is collapsing under its own weight. On the other hand, the new system, driven by network effects, blockchain, and artificial intelligence, is accelerating unstoppably. Without a doubt, this split is one of the most important macro configurations ever observed. There is a very limited window of opportunity, and if you act too slowly, you may lose out on the biggest wave of investments in our lifetime. Few people can understand how quickly this transition is happening, and Pal explains why, as well as how to position yourself before the door slams shut.
It's also a way of organizing complex adaptive societies. That's what really got me interested in it. I've been very interested in social tokens and NFTs for community as the new business model. And it creates a wholly different dynamic when you have combined network effects between your consumers or your network of users and yourself or your business. Let me just stop you one sec, because you brought up something really interesting. And I had not thought about this before, but I see it because of my bloody wallet, and you all see it, is what we've essentially also got, amongst other things, is an open email address book.
Yes.
So if you think of what we talked about was, the kind of how do you contact your customers? Right now, most of us do it via email, or if not, you might do it via pop-ups on a mobile site. But what we've done is made every single email database public in NFT world, in the future world, which creates a bit of a problem of the excessive amounts of information that get thrown at you via your wallet. Because anybody can drop anything to any like-minded person. And this is going to be a marketer's dream for a period of time. And it's going to be a nightmare for the rest of us. I don't know, have you thought about any of that? Yeah, because, if you've got verified stuff, let's assume in that world, but let's assume, you're a punks holder and Aku airdrop something. You need a verification that you haven't verified, but whether it's a large group, because it's distributed, we can pretty much solve that quite quickly by allowing the community to decide what is a verifiable thing and what isn't. And
I don't think I would have.
No, and look, I've tried to buy Damien Hirst in the past because that was a cultural reference for me. It's a fucking nightmare.
Right. That's what I'm telling you.
It's just as simple as that. It's just a nightmare. You don't know the price. The gallery's ripping you off. Everybody's ripping you off. You don't really know what you're getting. And, I just didn't bother in the end. I bought signed rock and roll music photographs, Mick Rock stuff, because it was easier to get validated because I could buy it from Mick Rock himself. But other than that, I gave up. They don't scale. Right. They just don't scale generally unless you're Damien Hirst and you have a marketing engine. But and I was going to come on to this later, but I think it's at point is how the discoverability is still a problem, right? I go into OpenSea, I'm overwhelmed. And then I go to Nifty Gateway, it's even worse. And then I go into Rarible, it just becomes overwhelming.
Huge problem.
We're missing that layer, I guess, the Amazon. I hate to use something like that, but the Amazon experience where it'll find you and you find it. Also, what's really fascinating to me is not only do we do it because we can think in US terms, but we do it at a global scale. We've got a global clearing price for art. So you can be a young up-and-coming artist in Niger. It's game-changing because you sell on a global basis at a global price, which you don't have an ability to do right now. The other part of this that's happening quickly is music. I know it's part of the creative arts, but music feels like that is a big area that needs solving, and NFTs work perfectly for large parts of it.
Those 10,000 NFT audience, none of that's going to work.
No, you need interoperability and, people who are good at gaming to build gaming out. I've been talking a lot about this, and a lot of people don't really understand what I'm trying to say, but there's $63 trillion of intangibles on the global balance sheets of corporations. That's just corporations, not the intangibles that we all have. $63 trillion. This turns intangibles into tangibles. That is where the enormous multiplier effect on GDP and wealth comes from. I've generally found that the intangibles, once you tokenize them, just theoretically speaking and observationally speaking, are worth more than the actual equity of most things. Culture is the most valuable thing we have. And I want to get into this conversation about memes and all of this, because culture is it. That is what it is to be human. And as you said, we can allow the robots to take our jobs, but culture is all we have as humans.
And now,
because I mean, that's religion, that's government, that's everything. Everything is a narrative that we tell ourselves in order to accept a societal organization, as you say.
So I keep saying, seize the means of production.
And what do you mean? What do you mean by that? Because I don't think, me included, really understand what you mean. But surely one company won't own it, right? It's just a multitude of experiences of which we can move our digital identity and digital belongings across them. So therefore, I'm not sure that these people don't understand the magnitude of what is happening. You know, having spoken to quite a few kind of very senior people at, let's say, Meta, they get the interoperability. They get it. They're like, we can't stand in the way of this because nobody's going to trust us. I mean, whether it happens or not, that's a different matter.
Is that why you have to log into Facebook to use an Oculus?
Well, only now. In the future, I'll just use my NFT, my digital identity, like being put into prison.
Correct.
Right, so
digital prison.
It's a state-level decision by the jurisdictional structure of society, and it can't be decided upon by a corporation. They'll use it as a behavioral economic system. I've been saying this for ages, and that's both good and terrible. Yeah, I totally agree. The issue I've got with all of this is we sold ourselves to the devil 15 years ago. Every single thing that we do, we have given to databases controlled by very few people. I mean, people argue this as, oh, you're taking my privacy. You haven't been able to take £10,000, or in Europe's case, in some cases, €2,000 out of a bank account for 10 years now and move it around. So everything is now, obviously, anything the government wants to know, they can know. But even bigger than that I have a real problem with this is, I don't know if you've read This Is How They Tell You the World May End, about cyber hacking, written by the New York Times. No. It's an extraordinary book, and it's utterly terrifying. Okay. Because it's not about, let's just say that democracy works and power is not seized in Western democracies, that everything just ticks along as it has been in the usual drama that is a democracy. But the fact that this stuff can get hacked is the fact that you can have an entire sovereign state seized by a third party, and there's pretty much nothing you can do about it. It is utterly terrifying.
In 2016, cryptocurrency became a lifeline for younger generations in terms of money. However, older generations are finding it difficult to adapt to the new world. This is a result of inflation and limited opportunities crushing younger generations. By 2020, the idea of an exponential age had gained popularity. This is an era marked by the quickening pace of technological development. Driven by breakthroughs in artificial intelligence like ChatGPT, we are approaching an economic singularity, or the tipping point when traditional financial institutions will cease to exist. Around 2030, as a result of this velocity, the situation is becoming more difficult for central banks. Interest rates, and government levers to control due to demographic decline, stagnant productivity, and rising debt. Wealth will not just be transferred if this revolution takes place. Instead, it will change into a brand new representation. Those who are incapable of adapting will be abandoned. The people who can adjust will be the ones who control the future.
I've avoided your attention that they've seized Russian oligarchs, by what definition, all of their assets in foreign countries with no due legal process. Cheaper way than putting people in prison, because basically you're robbed of all your rights because you can't do anything. I get it. I worry some stuff, some parts of democracy. I kind of think, okay, we've got to draw these battlegrounds anyway. I think democracy itself in this fourth turning moment needs to get redefined in some way that better represents democracy and not an oligopoly or a corporatist world. But okay, so how we've talked about this battle for the metaverse, which is essentially all of this battle. There's two things I want to get from you is, okay, how do we solve that with blockchain, with what we're doing? What is required for that to be true? And also the other thing we've kind of skirted around, haven't talked about, is digital identity to make this all unlock. So a couple of things I'd love to hear from you. And do you not think that, I mean, yes, I agree. And I agree that NFTs are very important because that is culture and, you know, some of the really important things that is what brings in the masses. But can cryptocurrencies themselves, because it's been interesting as people go down the learning journey, once they buy something, they kind of learn a bit more about it and then understand this world of decentralization and the ability to own your own assets wherever you are, however you are. Do you not think that applies as well? That it depends what scales, I guess, right? I'm kind of, you know, the person I defer to in this is the person I kind of trust in this space. I don't know if you know Ian Rogers. I'm sure you've come across him. Us to be able to move around with our own wallet outside of the cold storage of Ledger, but a world where we don't leave it on an exchange because it's so easy to put it into a better environment. I don't know. What are your thoughts? And I know he's working on that. And, you know, he's one of the world's best UX people. It's still fucking terrifying. It's terrifying to move everything around. And, you know, I've been involved in this space since 2013, and I'm still terrified of moving stuff around. And are you clicking on the wrong link? Have you got the right address? It's utterly terrifying. That needs to get solved, but I think it will get solved. I think a wallet experience that allows us not to leave things on exchanges, because for the reasons you say, I think you're right. Actually, I think NFT is the spearhead from which I also think social tokens, because these are things you're going to use all day, every day.
Raoul Pal warns that we will never have a more important window for investing in our lives than the next 6 years, considering that blockchain and technology are the only two unstoppable growth engines. According to him, blockchain adoption is surpassing all prior assets. Although artificial intelligence is developing even more quickly, regulators cannot stop the momentum due to its size and the international nature of these systems. Despite the political challenges they encounter, they will keep evolving. According to Pal, this change is inevitable. Along with the financial system's transformation, the definition of wealth will also change at its core. In order to guarantee resilience, quality of life, and financial benefits in the years preceding the 2030s, he strongly advises people to take advantage of this window of opportunity, to invest their skills and money, as automation and artificial intelligence cause a significant deflationary shock that forces both individuals and businesses to adapt to the quickly changing environment. The community itself will emerge as the anchor of value in this new era. The only question that needs to be addressed is whether you are positioning yourself now or waiting until it is too late.